Okay, so because of the similar screen size and almost similar dimensions of the Nothing Phone 3a Pro to the Nothing Phone 2a, it felt like a disappointing purchase over the Nothing Phone 2a, even when the phone is still on sale in the market. But that thing didn't last that long. And how that happened, let me tell you. So first and foremost, these phones, if you compare them side by side, they look and feel mostly similar from the front because the bezel size are almost similar and the screen looks mostly similar. But if you take them out, not just this slightly tiny more bigger screen, but this brighter screen will actually change your perspective. Yes, this 120Hz 6.77-inch panel of the Nothing Phone 3a Pro is actually way too bright. It's 3000 nits of peak brightness, which isn't actually a joke at all. It's even more brighter than my iPhone 15 Plus, and 1300 nits of high manual brightness it has, which is actually the peak brightness of the Nothing Phone 2a. So means you can manually go to that peak brightness which the Nothing Phone 2a will hit under direct sunlight. Crazy to think about. But that's not the only thing though. The cameras are equally that much different. But before coming to that, let me tell you another thing, that this is covered by Panda Glass compared to Corning Gorilla Glass 5 on the Nothing Phone 2a. Though a cheaper phone or older model has better protection, seemingly. Also, if you look at the overall phone from the back, the Nothing Phone 2a seems more simpler than the Nothing Phone 3a Pro. But also this Pro model has some insanely beautiful looking back panel. I mean, if you love these kind of looks, then you will fall in love with this phone because this phone looks gorgeous from the back. And the camera module is massive compared to the Nothing Phone 2a's camera hump. It's literally like an Oreo at the back. Also, when you hold the phone in your hand taking pictures, this big hump will actually kind of interrupts that experience quite a bit. I mean, even when you're doing calling or gaming, this one is a little bit uncomfortable to me because of that reason. And yeah, the glip lights are still there. They're slightly more brighter than the Nothing Phone 2a, and they're still gimmicky. But I think somehow I found them useful when I take pictures with timers. In the night, if I want a torch but not that bright, then glip lights also come in handy quite a bit. If you take portrait photos, not too much of flash you want, glip lights again come in handy. But these are the only scenarios I can find where the glip lights are actually important. And talking about the portrait photos, damn man, this phone takes amazing photos. I mean, this is just mind-bogglingly good. But only I'm impressed by one single camera, and that's the 3x camera. The 3x camera here is actually a 50 megapixel unit. It's f2.6 aperture, which is really fantastic for a telephoto camera. And it's not just a simple telephoto camera, it's a periscope unit, unlike the Nothing Phone 3a or the newer CMF phone from them, which does only have a 2x camera. Kind of seems useless because you already had sensor crop on the Nothing Phone 2a with the 50 megapixel main camera. So what's the point? The main camera on paper looks very much identical to the Nothing Phone 2a and performs weaker than the Nothing Phone 2a. You want to see what that does mean? Well, this is one example. I mean, you can see the details on the Nothing Phone 2a's photos at 50 megapixel resolution versus the Nothing Phone 3a Pro's one. And I can show you many more such photos that clearly shows that the Nothing Phone 2a has better performance in the details department if you take the high resolution photos using the main 1x camera, and even if you take 2x photo at 12 megapixel. Same story. But this mostly because of software and processing, nothing else. Because the sensor seems similar, 1/1.56 inch sensor. Pretty big. But even though they did downgrade the ultra wide angle camera from 50 megapixel in resolution on the Nothing Phone 2a to only 8 megapixel, but I don't really care about the ultra wide angle photos as much. So if you do care about them, then this phone isn't a good upgrade or a good choice, because it also can't take 4K videos at all in the ultra wide angle camera, but it can using the 50 megapixel main camera and the 50 megapixel ultra wide angle camera. Also, the camera app experience isn't the most friendly or smoother. I mean, like, yeah, it does the job fine, it doesn't stutter or lag, but it doesn't feel fast. It doesn't feel like it's there yet. Also, the menu options are very clunky when you're using the phone. This is a big phone, so when you're using it with one hand, it's very uncomfortable. Switching between modes, 50 megapixel to 12 megapixel, doesn't seem very friendly. Also, the zoom slider isn't that friendly at all. It just doesn't work that well. That's separate from the output quality of the 50 megapixel periscope telephoto camera. It's a 1 over 1.95 inch sensor, so it's really a big sensor for a telephoto camera, and it's 3x in the zoom department, which is something that I also have on my Samsung S22 Ultra. It's a 3x again. Even Samsung's newest Ultras still have the same camera, 10 megapixel only, and that can't really produce that kind of details that I get out of this phone, or the quality even. I've taken so much of portrait photos with this. You are just gonna love this phone over anything, even better than Samsung's probably. And that's I'm saying who is actually a Samsung fanboy mostly. That is incredible. Like, the resolution is there, the quality is there, and when you're taking portrait photos, you can even go to from 3x to 4x. You can't go to 6x, which you can do when you're taking the normal photos. Then you can switch from 1x, 2x, 3x, and using the sensor crop in the 50 megapixel resolution, you can even take a 12 megapixel 6x photo as well. This periscope camera is the highlight of this phone, and I really freaking love this phone. And so much so that I stopped using my Samsung for the 3x photos from now on. And that same thing can't be done on the Nothing Phone 2a, because if you compare these photos, like a 3x photo with a 3x photo on the Nothing Phone 2a or 2x photos, you can see the results. The 1x photos, Nothing Phone 2a is the winner. The ultra wide angle camera, yes, you can do 50 megapixels, so Nothing Phone 2a is the winner. But in terms of quality I see in the normal day-to-day life, it's fine on both of them. But if you do anything more than 2x, that's where this phone shines. I mean, this 50 megapixel periscope camera is even better than the main camera, it seems. The 3x or the 6x or even the 10x photos are great on it. Other than that, you can actually see text very much clearly. If they are at a very long distance, you might not be able to recover that. Mostly it does a very fine job. At 30x, sometimes it does take great photos, sometimes it doesn't. It depends on what subject that is. And at very long distance, not all the details can be recovered because it's after all a 3x lens. It's not even 5x or 10x lens. If that would have been the case, then the story would have been totally different. This phone is a clear winner. It's even better than my own Samsung, my favorite Samsung. And the same thing can be said about the video quality. It may not be very great, but if you put it on a tripod and under great lighting, it can take some stunning videos. This phone main camera isn't as good in focusing as the Nothing Phone 2a, but the 3x camera does amazing job in focusing, where the Nothing Phone will struggle because it doesn't have a 3x camera. If you do it main camera, it won't focus that well from a long distance. In the battery life department, the Nothing Phone 2a is a clear winner. Even though the charging department, they are mostly similar, like there are 5 to 10 minutes of difference you're gonna find if you do 0 to 100. But in the battery life department, the Nothing Phone 2a had a screen on time of 8 hours and 41 minutes on my previous test, and the Nothing Phone 3a Pro did 7 hours and 12 minutes in my latest test. And that's a big gap. Now, you might blame the phone's processor, maybe the software optimization, or maybe the screen. And considering all of that, the Nothing Phone 3a Pro did good enough, but not great like the Nothing Phone 2a. Now, if it was close to 8 hours or so, then I could have said something else. But because it is only 7 hours and 10 minutes or so, let's just say it's just good enough if you are not careful with it. Fingerprint scanner is better. It's still optical, just like the Nothing Phone 2a, still a cheaper technology. 9 times it works out of 10, whereas the Nothing Phone 2a will disappoint you with 7 out of 10. Now, if you look at the benchmarking numbers and all those things, then surely this Nothing Phone 3a Pro actually has a lot better performance, 820,000 points in the Antutu benchmark compared to only 600,000 in the Nothing Phone 2a. Almost. You will never see lag or stutters in this phone because somehow, even having the UFS 2.2 storage with options up to 256GB with 12GB of RAM, because this phone is the 128GB model, just like the Nothing Phone 2a, this phone performs still well. But the portrait photos does take time to process because that is all in the AI and the software. That magic is different. And I can surely say that this is a very big upgrade over the Nothing Phone 2a in many cases, but only if you need those things. So in conclusion, the Nothing Phone 3a Pro does offer a very unique and a very sleek design. I would say this is probably one of the best designs in the market right now. Also, it does have very bright display, very good looking display with much better color accuracy than many other competitors, a decent enough powerful chipset with great efficiency, intuitive zoom camera system, the primary camera also delivers a very satisfactory image quality, and all of that is combined with the Nothing OS, a very aesthetically pleasing and a very much stable operating system with a lot of features. However, this is where the advantages end. And if you do like all of that, then this phone still can be recommended to you. But from a financial perspective, the pricing strategy presents a significant drawback. This device's launch price is considerably more expensive than the Nothing Phone 2a's price. And as I said, this Pro naming is kind of like marketing. It's not exactly a Pro phone. So the existence of the Nothing Phone 2a at a much lower price significantly impacts the recommendation of this Nothing Phone 3a Pro, even though it's still a very good phone. But it is what it is. Let me know about your thoughts in the comment section below.
And yes, if you feel like you need some really cool wallpapers for your devices, whether it's a tablet or a smartphone or even a laptop, well, I have some crazy cool 8K wallpapers. Visit my website, stunningdesigns.com, amazing link down below. And until the next one, bye and take care.